The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guests and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of S-4, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast or reproduction of this broadcast or podcast without express written consent of S-4 is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to S-4 Radio. Coming to you live from the dark side of midnight. Climb aboard as we explore all aspects of the paranormal, from UFOs and Bigfoot to ghosts and astral travel, and all the fringe subjects in between. You have found the cutting edge of paranormal talk radio with your host, Eric Cooper, and our S-4 panel of specialists. Prepare to go to the edge.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to S4 with Eric Cooper, broadcasting live from the beautiful mountains of Concrete, Washington. Tonight we're having our monthly roundtable. Tonight on the panel we have only myself, Eric Cooper, Eric Markham, our FMP scientist, and Michael Hall, the paranormal lawyer and owner of UFO IT, and your host, Forest Moon Paranormal Zone, myself, Eric Cooper. So, yeah, it's a very small crowd tonight because, well, we had, and for some reason I'm getting feedback here. Alright, let's turn up the volume just a little bit. So, I'm running studio tonight and trying to figure out some of the technicalities of this. And thank you, Trip, and let me know if things pan out. Let me do something here. Okay. So how you doing tonight, Michael and Markham?
Doing fine. Glad to be here in Concrete.
Yeah, Markham is sitting.
What's that?
Yeah, Markham is sitting right here.
Right there is what's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, this is great to have all you guys in one spot this time.
It still went to that. It's got to be on virtual cable. Cable input.
That one. Okay. Is that any better?
Oh, that's really good.
Can you hear us all right now, Trippin'?
I can hear you guys. This is Michael.
Yeah. Okay, so Corey's not here. It's myself, Cooper, and Markham, who is sitting here in headquarters, and Michael. How you doing tonight, Michael?
I'm doing good. The old paranormal lawyer is still kicking.
Okay, go ahead and talk again, Michael.
Testing 1, 2. This is
not getting through here.
Not getting through? Okay. I'll keep talking.
Yeah.
If we, there we go.
So we will figure this out, folks.
We're experimenting with Skype right now for S4 Radio.
What did you change?
The real test.
Hey, Teresa. Looking good out there.
There you go.
Now you can hear me. Nice.
There you go. And Trippin says Michael's loud. Cooper's in next room. Preacher sounds like he's outside.
I am outside.
I'm going to turn my volume down a little bit and see if that helps you guys with your mix. Okay, now I'm down to 70 right now. That might help.
There we go. I still hear an echo, and I'm really not sure why. Let me try something here.
Yeah, you're echoing on this end too.
You can hear Michael.
All right, go ahead and say something, Michael, because the echo's gone right now.
Okay, good. Testing 1, 2. This is Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer on S-4 radio.
All right, Markham, go ahead and say hi again.
Hi, everybody. Live from Concrete, Washington. It's the S-4 Roundtable show.
All right.
Nice.
All right. So, yeah, Don says no echo here now, but Michael is coming in hot.
The hot paranormal lawyer.
Exactly.
I will turn my volume down a little bit on my Skype recording here. Is that better? Testing 1, 2. 1, 2.
Yeah, you're sounding fine here. Okay, let's get this show started. So some announcements real quick. We have, obviously, like we do every weekend, the Forest Moon Paranormal's booth at the Farmers Market here in Concrete. Tomorrow's the last day for the weekend anyway. Oh my God, we're out of cigarettes. Anyway, and then we're doing Bigfoot training, a camping exercise out in the woods Monday through Wednesday. So, gonna be fun. And then of course right back to hey Sandra, how you doing? Yeah, right back to market again. August 18th we have a sky watch that we're doing with the UFOI team for all of our locals. And you know what's kind of cool, and like I think I kind of hit on this last week a little bit, but it's kind of cool in that we're meeting locals, and in some cases they're tourists passing through, and they happen to, stumble into the Forest Moon Paranormal booth, and it's interesting because, you get this, wow, you guys really do this kind of stuff? And yeah, it's what we do. And then, and tomorrow we're actually going to Northern State. Mike Morin's here in town. Today, like I said, Corey and Donna got hand fasted. For those that don't know, that's, what's the word I'm looking for? A commitment.
Yeah.
No, a commitment ceremony. They get committed for
a year and a day.
And if they so choose, they can do a further ceremony, which makes them basically, in legal terms, married. So it's been a crazy day because, I got up at 7. We set up the market at 8. We got done with that about 4:30. We ran home. We got dressed because I had to officiate. I am ordained pagan clergy, so I had to officiate. So we had to set up real quick. I officiated. We had a barbecue, and then set up the studio for S4. So, yeah, busy day. And then, of course, we're getting up early in the morning to set up market again. We're going to go run out to Northern State and see if we can pick up a couple spirits or anything else in the area. And, yeah, going to be fun. So what's the UFOI team been up to, Michael?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Tell me if I'm coming in too hot here with the audio, but I will continue on here unless I hear from you otherwise. We are the UFOI team is about to go to Glacier, Washington, high up in the North Cascades, this coming weekend, July 20th through the 22nd. And we are going to be filming a unscripted reality TV show, what they call a pitch pilot episode. Our episode is called Soft Disclosure with a Hard Landing. So it's going to be real interesting because there is so much activity going on up there in this North Cascade region that it's almost like we're guaranteed to see something strange and anomalous, and we're hoping we're going to be able to get this on tape while we're there. There are quite a few witnesses that we've heard about that we want to interview on camera and get their stories. So that's what we're going to be doing here this coming weekend.
Excellent. And we're going to try something as complicated as it's been so far. What's that?
It's running. Oh, never mind.
Okay. So Christina George is going to try to call in. Hopefully she'll make it. I have to figure out how to answer on Skype. I don't like Skype. I usually don't use Skype. And
yeah, she had to cover for somebody.
Yeah. So we haven't had Christina on here in about a year and a half. She's actually going to be one of our Paracon speakers, so be kind of cool. She's got experience with black-eyed children, indigo children, things of that nature, and knows a lot about the Bohemian Grove, if you're familiar with that.
Oh my, yeah, that will be interesting.
So any questions the audience has about Bohemian Grove? I mean, the Bushes were there, the Clintons have been there. Every major politician or corporate CEO or owner has been to Bohemian Grove. I've actually got the list of Bohemian Grove members. How accurate it is, who knows? So you got any questions for tonight, Michael?
Well, yeah. The whole idea of what is trending in ufology nowadays and what might be happening out there is kind of something that's a topical subject that I've been talking with some of my UFOI team members at our weekly meetings and stuff. So we could talk about a little bit of what's going on if we've got some time right now.
Yeah, go ahead. We got nothing but time.
All right. Great. Tell me if I come in a little too hot here on the audio. But, there's an interesting whistleblower that's coming to the fore right now that claims that he was a deep state black ops officer for the CIA and various undercover agencies, and he was actually asked to participate in the bombing of the Murrow building in the Oklahoma bombing, the one that Timothy McVeigh was caught and charged and executed for. But he is coming out really strong right now. He's written a book, I understand. And it's all about how the government manipulated things to have this building taken out. It was a federal building, of course, to actually get rid of or hide some records, they did not want to find the light of day. This is a real interesting fellow that's coming out right now. I don't know why he is coming out now. I guess the things that he was involved with were well over 20 years ago when he worked for the deep state. But he's making the circuit right now and really having some shocking things to say about conspiracies and how he was one of the agents that would be sent around to pull off assassinations of political figures, usually in other countries. But he was shocked at one point when his peers came and asked him to be involved, help plan the bombing of the federal building in Oklahoma. I don't know if anybody else has heard him speak yet, but I've been listening to him on different YouTube podcasts and broadcasts. Just this, actually, it was this weekend, but last week also.
And it's interesting you bring that up because I was just kind of studying that case, the Oklahoma City bombing in my schooling.
But Coop, you got to check out this guy because I know that you're taking graduate courses right now in terrorism and those kinds of issues. So this guy is probably an insider who has been through some of the things you're studying, but he sure gives you a different perspective on what's going on.
Well, does he maintain that Terry Nichols and Timothy McVeigh really had nothing to do with it? Are they patsies? Are they even really in prison? Was Timothy McVeigh executed? Was this, basically, I guess what I'm asking was all of this a show?
Well, not all of it was a show, but Timothy McVeigh was a government and a deep state asset himself, who actually, this guy says, was also at Waco during the David Koresh fiasco there as well. But they say that McVeigh was a definite patsy. He was set up as a military guy who was also recruited for the CIA to take the fall, basically, for this bombing. As far as he is concerned, and he testifies that Timothy McVeigh was actually killed, by lethal injection as his sentence for that crime. So he doesn't believe that, although some people do, that Timothy McVeigh might not have even been killed during the government execution. But he believes that he was. And he himself, this whistleblower, has been and is still targeted himself and has taken measures to protect himself from who he knows are on the assassination teams, and probably has a price on his head already. He is living somewhere up in the mountains of Colorado, he's saying. Of course, you never know if that's true or not where he's at, but yeah, this would be an interesting guy to get some different opinions on if you have an opportunity during this coming week to listen to. Actually, I think the best way to find him, and his name is escaping me at the moment. He doesn't hide his name, but Oli Damagard is the famous conspiracy researcher out of Spain. And if you look up Oli, which is O-L-E, and Damagard is D-A-M-A-G-A-A-R-D, I believe, Damagard, you will find his recent podcasts. And this whistleblower is crediting Oli for bringing him out of the closet and helping him get his story out. So people can check on those podcasts just by finding Ole Damagard on the internet.
So, and now I'm going to say, right off the top, I'm not a Trump supporter, one iota, but do you think when whistleblowers come out like this in this particular administration, does it help or hinder them?
Well, actually, this guy seems to be a Trump supporter because of the whole idea of this deep state is going rogue and doing what they want to do. And his feeling is that Trump is out there trying to still drain the swamp. I don't know what you think of Trump, as far as pros and cons, but this guy here doesn't seem to have any beef with President Trump. Of course, he was dealing with a whole lot of other different administrations prior to President Trump, and he has some pretty harsh words to say about them in this whole deep state agenda as well. Specifically, hiding documents, by blowing up federal buildings.
And yeah, exactly. That brings up the good point. You look at 9/11 and the documents and the evidence of various administration secrets that destroyed. Then you look at Oklahoma City bombing prior to that, same thing.
Yeah, you're talking at 9/11. Of course, it was Building 7 that was the FBI headquarters. I understand it was either FBI or CIA. It was the headquarters for the intelligence community in that building right next to the Twin Towers. That, of course, was prematurely reported for having been blown up or collapsed. Not blown up, but collapsed because of the Twin Tower explosions. And I remember the Canadian reporter, a woman who was giving that story to us live at the time, trying to tell us that the Building 7 had just collapsed. And, of course, the big faux pas was the fact that Building 7 was right behind her and being filmed in the background when she was saying that it was actually being destroyed. So someone had told her ahead of time that Building 7 was going to be pulled, like they say, and she got on the news faster than they could do the deed itself. So, and indeed, Coop, you're right. There were rumors that there were highly sensitive documents that were in that building. The deep state intelligence officers, they didn't want those things to get out. And one of the ways to do that was to destroy the building as well.
So we have a question coming in. When did this new guy, and so Trip, actually I can't remember who asked the other question, but Michael didn't know the guy's name, so that actually never came out. But Trip wants to know, when did this guy come out?
I believe that Ole Damagard was mentioning that it's only been a week or maybe two at the most that he has come out and made these public statements, and that his book is now available, although he says in his interviews that he's been working for about 2 years on this book. I am looking up the gentleman's name right now. So as we go through our broadcast tonight, I will definitely find that, I'm sure, and kind of report to everyone who this fellow is.
Excellent. Yeah, and Andy says Trip and always asking good questions. Indeed. Keep them coming, Trip. That's what Roundtable's all about. Um, and it so what the textbooks say, and of course you never know what to believe. Textbooks are textbooks, but McVeigh was in cahoots with militias and patriot groups. Was he a patsy? I really don't know. I don't know what to think as far as conspiracies go. What do you think, Marco?
Well, once you open the lid to conspiracy, I mean that makes the whole narrative change. So if Timothy McVeigh is a CIA or a deep government asset, did he willingly, you know, offer himself up as a sacrificial lamb, or what would he have had to gain by admitting or going along with it if he knew he was going to be executed?
Okay, and so Trippin's bringing up something fishy. Alex Jones, which I cringe when I hear that name, says Democrats will start second civil war on July 4th. Ain't that something? July 4th came and went, and well, there's no civil war.
All right. And then
Um,
this
Oh,
guy pops up.
you guys, you're not gonna believe this. I got to break in right now. Um, I'm looking for the video that Oli Damagard had put up earlier today about this whistleblower, and his name has just come to me. So if you have a pencil and paper, write this down. The gentleman, the whistleblower's name is Cody, Cody, Snodgrass, and it's not Snodgrass, it's Snodgrass, Snodgres, Snodgrass. But guess what it says when I look at this video that was up earlier today? This video is no longer available because the YouTube account associated with this video has been terminated. That's Oli Damagard's
Oh,
video account interview with this Cody Snodgrass. And I'm going to now Google Cody Snodgrass and just see if there's anything available on him on the internet. Oh, okay. Yes. He does come up. Black Ops operator comes forward and tells all. He's got an hour and 4-minute video. Jeff Rentz had Cody Snodgrass on and has a hour and 24-minute interview, which is very fascinating because I listened to Jeff Rentz's interview with him as well. There looks like a couple of his podcasts or interviews there on YouTube, or actually this is just on the internet. So looks like he's still giving. The book. Okay, here's his book. It's an ebook. You can actually just download it once you pay for it. I believe it's called "Choosing the Light" by Cody Snodgrass. Choosing the Light, and it's basically got a picture of a kind of a Men in Black hat on the front of the cover of the book. Let's see here. Oh, Cody Snodgrass, first public interview after his automobile accident, which almost killed him, by the way, and he believes he was targeted by an assassin on the automobile accident. It was uploaded on December 29th of last year. So it's been, 7 months ago that it looks like he started to come out in public.
and, I'm all about people making money, don't get me wrong. But it was brought up in the chat room that, a book deal coming up. It tends to make you wonder, though, when a whistleblower like this comes, just pops up out of the blue, and all of a sudden there's a big book that everyone needs to go out and buy. how much on the up and up they really are. What do you think about that?
I kind of feel
Well,
like if the guy thinks they're after him anyway, he's like, why let my information die with me? I can almost see his justification for coming forward, you know. And if he can make a buck at the same time, more power to him.
True, true.
well, and this is an ebook. I mean, I've got 4 novels and some short stories up on Amazon as ebooks myself. You're not going to make a lot of money off this. I believe he's probably doing this just to get the word out,
Right, right.
rather than make money. I mean, my gosh, you're not going to. Matter of fact, even if you had a a regular book deal with a New York City publishing company, you're not going to make a whole lot of money off your first few books anyway. They're basically going to take the cut until you get famous. Um, Let me read the first couple sentences of this guy's book, and it'll give you an idea what it's about, if you'd like. I don't want to monopolize tonight either, you guys. So please
Oh
tell
no,
me if
let's
I'm.
hear this. Let's hear this. You got me very curious.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, because the reason I'm mentioning this guy is that it's just breaking stuff happening just in the last few days that I've been catching these things. And Jeff Rentz was one of the first major shows that he was on. But it says on the kind of like the dust jacket of the book here, for over 20 years I was an independent contractor, and in parentheses it's called IC, specializing in sensitive covert assignments as well as bodyguard work. In 1994, I was given the task to blow up the Alfred P. Murray, it's Murray, Murray, building in Oklahoma City. This job came from an ex-U.S. military man who told me he worked covertly for the CIA. I refused on moral grounds. My strong opposition to attacking U.S. citizens on our own soil changed my status from a CIA asset into a liability, a private independent contractor who now knew too much. This is the story of the U.S. Department of Justice's role in covering up the bombing in Oklahoma City on April 19th, 1995, and the secret reasons why I believe it was ordered. Afraid to speak up until now, I am very lucky to be alive to tell this story. Hopefully enough time has elapsed so that I will not be targeted again or retribution. So many whistleblowers have been before me. May God bless America and our fellow patriots who have fought and bled for her. So that's just kind of the dust jacket explanation of the book. And it's the actual full title is Choosing the Light, Dark Secrets of the Oklahoma City Bombing by Cody Snodgrass.
And it's interesting stuff. It really is. And Trippin's playing the devil's advocate here. But if you look at the sites that are posting his stuff, it's all affiliated with InfoWars.
Not at all. Of course, Alex Jones would pick this up in a heartbeat, you would imagine. But no, when you're talking Jeff Rentz, you're talking Oli Damagard, these are different sources out there, just so they know.
Okay. So we're backing up with questions here in the chat room. I'm going to jump on the newest one, and we will work back. We'll get to your question here shortly, Tim. But John brings up, if Trump's an outsider, then why has he surrounded himself with neocons, ex-banksters, corporate lobbyists, and military contractors? You got thoughts on that, Markham?
Well, a lot of the people he has selected are tops in their field as well. You look at the qualifications to be in government, and you pretty much got to reach into a barrel of muck and try and get the the least objectionable person into the job.
I have to disagree real quick. Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions is the top criminal justice is the worst selection you could ever come up with. He destroyed Alabama. He was in Alabama as the Inspector General, I believe it was. And no, that's only one example. I understand, but I look at who he picks, and the woman he put in education. Again, the worst person you could ever put in the education side.
Well, that's an opinion, and as far as knowing enough background to offer to the con, I really can't. But did Sessions really ruin Alabama? In what way did he ruin Alabama?
Okay, we'll talk offline. Talk to Izzy. Talk to my mate. She's from Alabama. Talk to Jeff. They all hate. Talk to people from Alabama. You'll get the real story.
Okay.
That's what I go by. I don't go by news. You know me. I don't go by media.
Right. I don't
go by the news. I go straight from the horse's mouth. I go straight from the source. But and we're not making this a political show tonight. We try to stay away from politics the best we can on S4. But sometimes you just can't help it when you're talking whistleblowers, when you're talking criminal justice, terrorism, things of that nature that came up tonight. Let me get to another question. I know Tim had a question about Bohemian Grove. Well, real quick, Michael, what was your thoughts on that question?
On the Bohemian Grove question?
No. On the neocons. How Trump is surrounding himself with neocons and...
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing about one of the first things that I kind of got information regarding how Trump was going to deal with, the entrenched deep state black hats. I remember on his inauguration day, there was, I don't know if you all remember, there was this huge rumor going on that he was going to be targeted for an assassination either before or during his inauguration. So there was a whole lot of tension in the air during that time as well. And from what I remember, what Donald Trump did was that he actually went out and hired independent contractor bodyguards from actually, and here's the funny thing, instead of, for instance, the Secret Service, which normally would be the inner circle of protecting the president during that time period, the incoming president. I heard that Donald Trump went and actually hired ex-Blackwater contractors who were now working in the Soviet Union, who were bodyguard experts. And he had them doing the inner perimeter protection work while he was going through the inauguration. And I remember at one point, there's the famous walk down Pennsylvania Avenue that all the presidents take. Their limousines and the whole entourage comes down Pennsylvania Avenue. And then it's traditional that these heads of state, the president and his wife, get out of the car and actually walk for a mile or so in the open, basically. And I remember seeing that on television and kind of marveling at how it was done and to protect the president. And if you'll notice, if you go back to the old videotapes of that, you will see that they are definitely, lots of Secret Service around the area with their long coats, their trench coats and things, because that they're armed to the teeth. But also the real inner circle of the bodyguards had all the same colored ties on. And they were different colors than the Secret Service. The Secret Service basically kind of had their own uniform kind of thing, but the inner circle black ops contractor guys that Trump had hired stuck out like a sore thumb if you knew what you were looking for. So it's a long story, but I'm just thinking that I think Trump knows exactly what's going on in the deep state and with the political climate going on out there. But I think he is a pretty smart guy. I think he's probably going to figure out the best to his best of his ability to figure out how to negotiate and navigate this whole political landscape and do whatever he possibly can. Now, here's the interesting thing: if this Cody Snodgrass is for real, and if he is actually coming out and spilling these really deep and dark secrets of the inner black state operations for the last 10, 15 years or whatever, it would seem to me that there is some kind of not green light, but some kind of ability now to come out with this information that is going to be almost like the beginning of an actual draining of the swamp situation where people are going to be exposed. I mean, if he's able to do this, obviously there was someone there that was either protecting him to make sure he's still alive and or even allowing this book to be published. I mean, you just don't get, like, for instance, this interview that Oli Damagard did with him was just taken down off the internet. And that was just today, because I saw it earlier today. But the fact that the book actually got out and his interviews with Jeff Rentz and other folks are still up goes to show you that maybe the white hats on the inside there, Q to be one of the examples, this QAnon, might have got some control going on there. It's it's a very exciting time to be alive. I'll tell you that, and an incredibly exciting time to be involved in S-4 radio, where we can actually talk about these issues.
Blackwater. I can tell you right now from firsthand personal experience, Blackwater is about the most corrupt, mercenary-driven organization you can ever ask for. So for him to even think about pulling in Blackwater answers a whole lot of, questions to me. I dealt with Blackwater in Iraq and despise the, I can't say the words I want to say on S4. But, I hate Blackwater. We'll leave it at that. We're being, let's cut the politics. The chat room's kind of getting aggravated. That's a good word. We do have a question in the chat room, though, about Bohemian Grove. Tim was asking earlier about, is Bohemian Grove on this year? As I recall, Bohemian Grove is a camp out that they do every year. You might be thinking the Bilderbergers? Not sure. The Bilderbergers, I believe, don't the Bilderbergers meet every other year?
Yeah, it's not a yearly cycle, if I remember right.
No, but
I think Bohemian Grove's
it's an annual event.
An annual.
And I do believe Bilderbergers got me confused. Bilderbergers actually met this year. I think I read something about that before. Again, I go by non-primary media, just because I don't trust any of the media, whether it's Fox, CNN, MSNBC. They're all biased, and they're not all fake news. But what non-political question do you have?
A non-political question.
A non-political question.
I've asked this before, but maybe it would be good to get Michael's input on this as well. It's like, if hard disclosure happens tomorrow, well, for me, I'm on vacation, so I don't give a rat's butt, but for the the average working person, what are they going to gain by hard disclosure? I mean, me, I'm still going to have to go to work unless the aliens start, peeing gasoline and crapping $100 bills. I can't see other than, yeah, I thought so, being able to say, well, I thought there was, extraterrestrial life. What impact do you think it would really have socioeconomically on just our culture in general?
You know, and that's a, that. Let's talk about that a little bit deeper. Um, do you think the media or the media? Do you think society in general is ready for
I think
disclosure?
I think the society in general is so sick of hearing about it or being teased with it that it would almost be an anticlimax at this point. I think by and large, most people, I think a majority of American citizens already believe in flying saucers, already believe in extraterrestrials, so it would just be a vindication. I don't see the whole, you're going to have whack jobs that are going to bury themselves in empty container trucks and suffocate waiting for Armageddon or whatever. But
Reminds me of the
I,
Bubble Bunch.
yeah, I think by and large people would take it in stride. I don't think it'd be that big a surprise to most people.
Um, I, I think Michael would agree with this statement, but I think America is actually as a population is behind the times. Because you look at Germany, a good portion of them believe in the paranormal in general, let alone UFOs. You look at Brazil, you look at the UK. Most of these other countries are more into the paranormal and UFOs than America is when it comes to the general population. What do you think?
Um, well, yeah, you're right. I mean, the United States is well behind Germany, France, even Russia, of course. These folks in those countries talk about um, those things, those subjects out in the open. It's even discussed in the newspapers and those kinds of things. And out here, it's just starting to be discussed. It used to be, of course, there was always the giggle factor in the United States when there was anything reported that had to be, on the mainstream media. But if you'll notice, um, they're actually starting to be more serious with their UFO stories, which is kind of it's very interesting. It seems to me that the disclosure process, if even if it's soft disclosure, is happening at a much greater pace right now, right this very moment. As of December 17th of last year, December 16th of 2017, when the New York Times came out with front page above the fold article about the Pentagon and the Department of Defense confirming that they had a program that studied unidentified aerial phenomena and that they even got a captured disc and were studying the metamaterials. So ever since then, I think that, with the gun footage, with the FA-18 fighter pilots off of the Nimitz, of this Tic Tac UFO that was sighted and brought out by the military. Something is definitely is going on as far as that disclosure thing is happening.
I'm going to be honest with you. When I look at my own community, I bring up, has anyone been seeing lights in the sky? We have a neighbor that saw a strange object in the sky just a couple of days ago. And when you bring it up, you have more people saying, it's just a planet. Oh, it's probably a drone. Oh, it's probably this. Oh, it's probably that. It just seems to me, going by the numbers of people that want to look in other directions. The object that she saw actually caused complete silence, like, birds, quiet. No coyotes howling when they should have been. No, things of that nature. That's when I told her, you might want to get inside, because that's not a good pattern of what we've experienced as far as with the abductees go. It just, we've been dealing with this. Well, you and I have been in this field for over 20 years and seen the patterns, and they don't change. But you don't see the opinions of the people improving.
I don't know if I agree with that completely. I think you get in some, there's backwoods. How do you, trying to say it without sounding insulting, but I mean, you've got populations that still resent the fact that there's electricity in the walls of your home. Like I said, I by and large, I think the majority of our society takes it for granted that aliens exist and it wouldn't be no big deal. Like I said before, there's always going to be the fringe populations that think it's the end of the world, that are going to overreact, and then you have the ones that look for any excuse they can to break windows and steal big screen TVs out of the local stores. So but I think by and large, it's time to disclose, and maybe that might be like an impetus for the world in general to get its act together.
What do you think, Michael?
Well, I think you're right. I think there's going to be a major paradigm shift coming down the road if and when the actual, it's very easy to confirm the existence of UFOs. I mean, you're right, Coop. Everyone knows the UFOs already exist. Some people don't know what they are, and some people claim they're aliens or not, but the UFO phenomena is definitely a real one. The harder disclosure is going to be, aliens exist. Yes, other life on other planets are visiting the Earth. Maybe some of them are even been on the Earth longer than human beings have. I mean, all those kinds of paradigm shift issues are going to be very hard for some people to be able to deal with. It's not as if people are going to be able to go to work or go to church the next Sunday and sit there and listen to the same message if they've been preempted with some information that is contrary to what they believe. That's going to be a difficult system to navigate if it happens all at once. And I believe that's why there's this soft disclosure happening over a period of time, so that the paradigm shift doesn't just happen overnight, and people have to, not only people, but organizations and institutions would probably feel the brunt of something happening very quickly.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not disappointed with 2018 by any means. I've got to say that. I do think there's been more activity. Is it building up for a 2019 disclosure? Or do you think it's still going to happen this year?
Well, here's the interesting thing as far as a perspective that I've been getting, Coop. When you look back at just this last December that we went through with the official disclosure that UFOs exist and that they don't know exactly what they are, but they're studying them. That happened just in December. So I often posited to our group at the UFOI team, what would happen, or what do you think will happen before the next December? Like December now is only a few months away. more than a few, but it's coming down the road. And what if within the year from last December, some other earth-shattering disclosures are made? So I don't know if that is going to be the case, or whether they're going to kick it over to 2019. I did run across some statistics of the trends that are happening in UFO sightings that I thought you might be interested in, because our buddy Peter Davenport from the National UFO Reporting Center is cited in this article by Fox News, among other things. If you'd like, I can give you some highlights of what the trends have been as far as UFO sightings. Or we can save that till later if you guys want. Either way.
Yeah, we're coming up close to break. I would say let's mull this over. I would say if they can figure out how to merchandise it and get the toys in the store by Christmas, we'll have disclosure this year.
Right.
You got to know that they're going to merchandise and somehow make, corporate America is going to make a buck off disclosure.
Santa Claus flying on a UFO.
Oh yeah, and Tom DeLonge is going to be leading the way with the merchandise. That's for sure.
Oh God, don't say that name. Back in the 90s when I first got into UFOs, Tester actually made a UFO model.
I had it.
So did I.
Yeah.
It got stolen.
It did.
Yep. They had the Roswell. The Roswell
sports model.
Yeah, the sports model.
It was the Bob Lazar sports model, and it got stolen with a whole bag of evidence and research that I had involving UFOs and abduction on a military base in Germany. Now, was it stolen intentionally? I don't know. Really, I have no clue. I don't like to speculate on it. But, you look on eBay, and you'll see the same model today going for over $100.
Oh, yeah.
I paid $7.99 for it in the PX. Believe it or not, an Army PX is where I bought this model. But it's amazing because I don't think they make that kind of stuff anymore.
Well, there was actually a article about, and this is way back when that model was widely available, that the guy that was asked to design it was also the one that he would be asked to design like the stealth fighter model. There was before the actual stealth fighter came out, there was a model you could buy for it that was actually based on a prototype, and this same guy did the UFO model. So they were saying what this guy models usually comes to pass.
Yeah. Was that Mark McCandlish that designed that?
That sounds familiar. I wouldn't lay money on it, but it sounds familiar. You may be right.
Well, because he's a famous graphic artist that worked for the airline and Skunk Works and those kind of guys doing just that. I think he was also a big Popular Mechanics illustrator as well.
Yes, that was him.
Yep.
Because he would do a cover of some crazy stuff, and then eventually it would be, maybe it was the XR71 that he had done like an artist conception of. But whenever he did an artist conception or they made a model based on some of his plans, later on down the line, the model ended up being pretty close to what actually came out of the Skunk Works.
All right, so I got to interject here. So when we come back from break, we'll continue our monthly roundtable tonight. So now on our panel, we have Eric Markham, our FMP scientist, Michael Hall, the paranormal lawyer and owner of UFO I-Team, and myself, Eric Cooper of Force Moon Paranormal. Join us every Saturday night at midnight Pacific Standard Time. You can find us on Spreaker.com and The Fringe FM. And for our local listeners, you can catch our shows on KSVU 90.1 FM on your FM dial on Saturdays from 10 p.m. to midnight. please go to thefringe.fm and check out the show lineup of shows like Lighting the Void with Joe Roop, The Paranormal Code with Rich Giordano, and a plethora of other good shows. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back.
This is Joe Roop from Lighting the Void, and you're listening to KTLK Digital Broadcasting Station, The Fringe FM.
Hi folks, CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Select Joe Roop at checkout at ancientlifeoil.com.
This is Rev Dan Lopez from Spiritual Warrior Today Radio, and you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lon Maladuquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts.
You asked for it. We listened. Changes are coming to the Fringe FM. Hear the Paranormal Code with Rich Giordano live Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, starting July 9th.
July 9th, we're going to be going 4 nights a week on the Fringe FM.
Followed by Lighting the Void with me, Joe Roop, live at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. Then, stay up with us in the early morning hours for some of the best paranormal and alternative programming around. The truth is out there, and so are we. The Fringe FM.
Ew, yuck. They're unhealthy. Bugs. I hate bugs. Our home is clean, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. From contact, it kills bugs. Plus, Orange Guard kills hidden bugs and keeps new bugs away for weeks. The ingredients in Orange Guard are on the FDA generally regarded as safe list, so Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard. Available at orangeguard.com and Ace Hardware.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Preston Dennett from PrestonDennett.weebly.com, and you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
My name is David. I suffered from MS, or multiple sclerosis symptoms, since 1986. For years, doctors tried to help, but didn't give me any real hope. I tried almost everything. I was afraid this was my future, but I did not give up hope. 8 years ago, a healthcare worker told me about ReginaStem. I called ReginaStem. ReginaStem explained how stem cells work. No promises, just a simple explanation of the science. They treated me with respect and understood my journey. For the first time, I felt hope. Now I can jog and snow ski once again. It's been amazing. I have been symptom-free of multiple sclerosis for 8 years. I have learned that stem cell therapy has a broad range of medical therapy, from COPD to chronic pain and diabetic neuropathy. It's an amazing therapy. If you want to talk about your chronic pain or your chronic symptoms, call ReginaStem today.
Call 305-224-1858. That's 305-224-1858. 305-224-1858.
Welcome back to S-4 Radio.
Welcome back. For those of you just joining us, tonight we have our monthly roundtable. On our panel we have Eric Markham, our FMP scientist, and Michael Hall. So welcome back, everybody.
Welcome, I'm back.
Yeah, Markham's yelling from outside, I'm here.
He's coming.
All right. So where were we? You're going to talk about some information and some, not statistics, but some trends that are going on. So now we have a fresh hour. Let's go into some UFO trends.
All right, great. Let me get back to the article that I was looking at with the statistics here from the National UFO Reporting Center. Let's see, wait a second, the wrong one. Get back to, here we go. Okay, this is an actual article that appeared, looks like in, Am I echoing?
Oh, it was us.
No, I think it's just Skype issues. To be honest with you, I think Skype's in and out.
Okay.
It happens from week to week.
Got it. Yeah.
But let's talk about trends.
Let's see here. I'm trying to see here where I saw the article after I went to break here. My phone went back to a couple pages, and I'm trying to get it back up here.
Well, I saw Rich Giordano had posted a graph that showed that actually activity had gone down over the last few years. But there again, what's the source and everything. Just as far as your own experience with the UFOI team, have you seen a decrease or an increase in activity?
Well, actually, I am seeing an increase, and I'll tell you why I think we're on the UFOI team getting more reports. Is that I think people ever since that New York Times article came out, confirming the existence of UFOs, I believe people are feeling a little vindicated. They're now maybe talking in their own families and their own relatives, at their get-togethers saying, hey, I told you so. Everybody seems to have a story that they have come across and or experienced themselves. And now it seems to me they're having a little bit more boldness in being able to tell that story because they can point to the fact that the federal government and the U.S. military are admitting that these things exist. So I don't know if it's, it could be, here's another factor that we got to factor into it, as well as that more and more people are having access to the internet with their personal devices and laptops and computers, that it's so easy now to make a report. Back in the old days, you had to call Peter Davenport up. You had to talk with him on the phone, or MUFON. You had to talk with a MUFON investigator and wait for them to come out to your house or, do an interview with you. Now there are multiple sites that people can actually call up or get on the internet and fill out a report. And of course, all of that goes into the data bank. So I don't know. it seems to be on the rise as far as I can see.
Well, you think that New York Times article was more or less an external validation that it was like, okay, if the New York Times says they exist, maybe it's okay to come out of the UFO closet and share the story now. There's a external validation or like a peer pressure thing.
And I've got another question for you, Michael. What with so many agencies coming out to report to, how much crossover do you think there is? How many duplicate cases are we seeing?
I don't think that there are many. Matter of fact, here's a good example. I think it was before December of last year, might have been October or even a little earlier than that, where the FBI supposedly released all of their records, right, of their investigating of UFOs and the sighting reports that they had. That was like a big deal. Remember when they were supposed to release the Kennedy assassination records as well? That was a big deal. But before that, matter of fact, some people thought that maybe the FBI released their UFO sighting reports as a kind of like a smokescreen or a distraction to the JFK issue of why weren't those things being released as well. And I think maybe the UFO release from the FBI was part of that political agenda. But those things from the FBI were not included in, for instance, the old Project Blue Book sighting reports. They seem to be new reports, different reports. And of course, you can go to MUFON, Mutual UFO Network, and their archives, and find a whole nother set of reports. There are some, a few, not a lot, but there are a few, duplicates when you go to the National UFO Reporting Center, because Peter Davenport works very closely with the Mutual UFO Network, and most all of his reports are available for state directors and MUFON investigators in every state to access and follow up on if they need to or if they wish to. And of course, that's who the UFOI team uses, is Peter Davenport as well, to follow up on some of his more kind of interesting sightings that he has coming into his reporting center. But I don't know that there's a whole lot of duplication going on there.
Yeah.
So I have a why now? Why do you think right now they're prepping everyone for all this disclosure? Timing is everything. It always has been. So what's your opinion about the timing of it? Do you think do you think there's more aliens here? Do you think there's more abductions happening? Do you think there's more UFOs coming and they have the intel that they're expecting something?
Yeah, don't let me monopolize things here. Just go ahead, both of you guys jump in on this, but I'm feeling that there's something major coming down the road relatively quickly that they need to get in front of. The powers that be know that if something like this happens quickly, they are going to potentially lose control of the spin. And so I think that there is a concerted effort to kind of control the release and get people acclimated to certain things so that they will be able to maintain control once whatever happens and the disclosures have to be made. And of course, we all know that there are certain religious institutions, specifically the Catholic Church, is planning on being the post-disclosure religion out there. I mean, the Pope even has said that he wouldn't have a problem baptizing extraterrestrials, right? So there's been a concerted effort. If the Catholic Church is preparing for an inevitable disclosure, it looks to me that the federal government and the world powers are doing the same thing. It might be that they're getting pressure, and I'll go the real woo-woo here. They might be getting pressure from off-world that, hey, somebody out there might be saying, if you guys don't do it now, we're going to come down and just do it ourselves, that kind of thing.
Trippin's got a comment. If Battle over L.A. wasn't disclosure, what type of disclosures are we wishing for? You've got the Battle of L.A., you've got the UFO flap over the White House with radar returns.
2 weekends in a row.
We've had enough evidence that has been documented with military, with radar returns, with multiple witnesses, that it shouldn't take President Trump, or it shouldn't take any kind of CIA, it shouldn't take any kind of bigwig to step up and say, oh, yep, they're here, look at that. People need to wake up and look at the evidence. It's there. It's been there. It's been there for 40, 50 years.
I also think that Michael hit a point about controlling the spin, and it just seems like in the last couple years, disclosure has been ramped up. I agree. It's almost like external forces are saying, look, we'll be there, given date. How you deal with it is your own responsibility. It's almost like they were given an ultimatum, the powers that be. And in a lot of ways, it looks like they're taking trying to get their last grasp of everything they can before a new power structure takes over.
And I'm going to interject too in that FMP has actually I think had more UFO reports and sightings of our own actually than we have in a long time in a few years. So I would have to say UFOs are on the rise. To be honest with you.
And of course, as we've all learned, Coop, that Skagit County itself is one of the hot spots in the entire state of Washington for UFOs and Bigfoot sightings. And of course, Washington State is, famous for historical UFO sightings, being the home state of the initial major public sighting that Kenneth Arnold had in 1947. And then, of course, a couple weeks before that, there was Maury Island down in South Puget Sound. So the state of Washington is pretty much a hot spot all over the place, even in Yakima, by the way. That's another hot spot. But, of course, Skagit County, as we know, where you guys are located, is about ground zero here for UFO sightings.
And I would agree with that, just based on what we see around here. And I do want to interject that there is an aircraft museum here in Concrete that has been sold. It's being closed down if it's not closed down already. And it actually has Kenneth Arnold's original airplane that he flew when he witnessed those UFOs. So you want to talk ground zero? We're definitely ground zero. We've got the original airplane that Kenneth Arnold flew. So interesting stuff.
Well, this is really a serious question when you think about it. So UFO disclosure comes. Now, Kenneth's airplane ends up in the Air and Space Museum as the first. Would that not actually be all the validation you needed? Is, you get a austere group like the Smithsonian, who is noted for not having a sense of humor about anything, and now they're hanging Kenneth Arnold's airplane up inside either the Udvar Hazy Annex out by Dulles Airport or in the main U.S. Space and Air Museum right there in D.C.
Well, I think definitely it should be there already. My goodness. Kenneth Arnold, for those folks out there who might be too young to remember the original 1947, sighting of 9 discs flying in and around Mount Rainier in the state of Washington, was sighted by a gentleman, private pilot by the name of Kenneth Arnold, who was flying help me out in this, Markham. Was that plane, and Coop would know this too, being close to the actual plane itself, was it a Piper Cub or was it a Cessna? Do you know what kind of plane he was flying?
I don't know. I haven't seen the plane yet. I've been trying to get a hold of this museum because actually there might be a YouTube program that's going to come down, and we're actually going to take him through it. Vince Yasunza, you know him. He wants to come down and actually do a video of it. And I've been trying to get, but they won't answer their phone because, well, they might be closed by now. So I've been trying to find that source for him, so we can actually get in there and do a video of it. I'd also like to, just out of curiosity, I'm not sure how, see if there's any radiation readings or anything of that nature on the plane itself, if it was that close to flying discs.
Also, one of the things to remember, the actual name Flying Saucer came from Kenneth Arnold's sighting. When it started getting popularized in the press, it went from disc-shaped objects to, I believe he stated something about skipping like a saucer on water or something. There was something about the flight characteristics that made him say that, and then, of course, they became flying saucers.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. You said
they were more of a delta configuration with like a scoop out the back. Think of a shorter, fatter version of the Star Trek, the Starfleet insignia.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very good, Markham. Yeah, that's exactly what it looked like. It was not necessarily a disc, that he saw, and he saw 9 of them flying in some kind of formation. And indeed, it was kind of an interesting. Kenneth Arnold took off or started his flight from Boise, Idaho. He was a fire extinguisher salesperson, kind of like a rep for a fire extinguisher company, and he had a private pilot's license, so he could fly all the Northwest and had quite a big territory to cover in his sales. He was flying around, or he kind of like detoured away from his flight plan to go around Mount Rainier because of a previously crashed military transport jet that crashed the winter before in bad weather, and now that the summertime was coming, this was in June, by the way, of 1947. He decided to detour around there, see if he could help in locating it for the rescue folks who weren't able to even do anything during the winter. And then, of course, he sees these flashes outside of his cockpit in his small private airplane, and couldn't believe what he was seeing, and thought initially it was some kind of a military exercise. But then when he tracked on his little, I think it was his dash, compass, or not a compass, but the actual clock on his dash to determine how fast it took them to go from peak to peak, around Mount Rainier. And they were going thousands of miles an hour, which totally freaked him out. So he took notice of that, and then he landed in Yakima, actually. And when he landed in Yakima, he had radioed ahead, of course, that he saw these discs to the tower there in the airport that he landed at. And when he landed, there was a local reporter waiting for him to taxi up to the hangar because he was tipped off by the tower personnel that something strange was going on, and the pilot was on his way to Yakima. And of course, when he got out of the plane, the reporter came up to him, just said, "Well, what did you see? What was going on?" And that's when the actual term, Markham is correct, was coined that day, when the reporter was told by Kenneth Arnold that these 9 discs, kind of like, well, they weren't discs, they were deltas, like Markham was saying. They flew as if you took a saucer and it was skipping it over the water if you threw it onto the water. In other words, they kind of flew in stutter step formation, kind of a thing. And of course, the reporter took that thing and made it into the historical name of flying saucers, and that's how it's stuck ever since.
Now, did any tower? I'm kind of hazy on the subject matter of Kenneth Arnold. Now, did he get any kind of backing from any tower in the area?
No.
Or was it totally his word against the world's that these things existed?
You know, at the time, of course, this was June of 1947. Roswell, New Mexico, in July 8th of 1947, just a few weeks, might have not even been 2 weeks later. That's when Roswell happened out there in New Mexico. And of course, you know what we all know what happened at Roswell, when there was an actual press release given to the local newspaper to put across the front headlines that the Army had now were in possession of a crashed disc. And of course, then it clamped down real quickly. So I don't believe that Kenneth Arnold had any confirmation from any military or civilian tower that they saw the same thing that he reported. But here's the thing with Kenneth Arnold. He was such a upstanding businessman, citizen, that when he said he saw something, he had a whole lot of folks that backed up his veracity at the time. And it seemed to have been about the perfect time to start the wave that happened, because obviously right after that, it seems to be the sightings came in from everywhere across the United States. It was almost as if it was kind of like disclosure had happened and people are going, yes, I saw something as well.
Oh, and I want to interject here too, in that Kenneth Arnold, because the press picked up his report and coined the term flying saucer, he actually was called into the Maury Island incident. And my rooster's waking us all up. But they actually called Kenneth Arnold in to the Maury Island incident because he was kind of known, after he coined the term, that he was the expert or the new professional on UFOs because of what he saw. And it's interesting, discussing Maury Island, I believe that was the first actual Men in Black situation with Maury Island for Washington State, because I believe Men in Black was involved with Maury Island. And then, of course, they took the sludge, they took the evidence from Maury Island incident, and the Air Force transporter that was going to, I think, California, actually crashed in Oregon, and they still don't know why.
You're right, Coop. You've got a heck of a memory for historic figures and facts, because Maury Island, let's clarify, Maury Island happened about a week before Kenneth Arnold's sighting. It was the very first modern UFO sighting report. And Maury Island has everything. Maury Island has UFO sightings, 6 donut-shaped UFOs. It has this, like you said, this sledge, this molten silvery metal that came off of one of the disabled saucers that was wobbling in the sky, and actually came down and hit the boat of Harold Dahl, who was out in a tugboat trying to get some of the logs that float around the Puget Sound periodically and get away from the log booms that are being transported to the mill. It killed his dog, this slag from this saucer. It made holes in the boat, and also it injured his son, his 12-year-old son's arm, and he had to go to the hospital to get his arm taken care of. And as soon as Harold Dahl landed or got to shore and saved some of the slag that was on the boat, put it in a cardboard box, actually, and took it home. The very next morning, supposedly before he even told anyone about this sighting, this guy in a black suit, black hat, black tie, a white shirt, shows up at his back door, his house, and tells him exactly what he saw, and tells him not to tell anyone about what he saw. And then, of course, that is, maybe a week or two before Kenneth Arnold's sighting, but it died down a bit. And when Kenneth Arnold saw his 9 discs over Mount Rainier, Fate magazine, which was a big kind of almost paranormal magazine back in those days, hired Kenneth Arnold to actually go out and investigate the Maury Island incident, even though the Maury Island incident happened before Kenneth Arnold's sighting. And one of the reasons why they sent Kenneth Arnold is that he had some good, very high up contacts in the military. Matter of fact, you're right. When this slag was finally taken by the military through Kenneth Arnold talking with Harold Dahl on a transport C-130 or something similar to that from 1947, it crashed in eastern Washington. And at that point, the United States Air Force had just been formed the day before. It was the Army Air Force prior to that time. But the U.S. Air Force, as a separate branch, was formed the day before that plane went down, so that plane carrying crashed UFO material was the first Air Force casualty in 1947. So there's all sorts of weird historical firsts happening here in Maury Island and Mount Rainier and the state of Washington.
Well, it sounds like we also get the first Man in Black sighting with the Maury Island.
Exactly. Matter of fact, if the listeners would like to see a very, very good film called The Maury Island Incident, it has fantastic actors. They're some of the local actors from the state of Washington that were used in this film, but they are excellent actors. And one of them plays Harold Dahl. One of them plays J. Edgar Hoover, by the way. And then this Men in Black character in the film is a very, very good actor. And indeed, that was the very first report of a Men in Black showing up at a UFO-related event right afterward.
So I got to ask, and I'm just messing with you, Michael. Were you in the Maury Island incident?
No. No, that was actually, it was only filmed a few years ago. But yeah, no, my acting experience has kind of been concentrated on late night talk shows and humor.
Oh, I just had to ask. I know you were an actor a few years ago, so and So the Maury Island incident actually happened before Roswell. Yeah, Roswell took all the spotlight. But Maury Island was actually dubbed the Washington State Roswell.
Right.
Well, does that mean, could we have a scenario where the Maury Island was the actual UFO crash, with the evidence, the physical evidence, and Roswell was created as a distraction?
Ah, that's an interesting point. Or the whole idea, some people have posited that the Roswell crash was caused by the new radar that we had developed, right after World War II ended. And supposedly, actually in Roswell, the claim is that two flying saucers ran into each other. One of them crashed outside of Roswell. The other one crashed later on, farther away in King, Arizona, or something like that. So the posit is that somehow our radar jammed their navigation and they ran into each other out there in the desert. But and there's some great movies and films about the Roswell incident as well. But I really always think about the fact that what if you were a lone rancher by the name of Mac Brazel, and it's a hot summer day, and you're out tending whatever you need to do. And by the way, this crash did not happen in Roswell, New Mexico. It was on a farm that was very far outside of town. It was in the middle of nowhere. Mac Brazel had to even ride on his horse, to check out the pastures and the cattle and the sheep that were ranging around the ranch there. And he ran across this way out in the middle of nowhere. But I can't imagine what it would be like for a guy like him to run across something that was totally unknown and shocking out on the ranch, and then going back into town and telling his friend was one of the newspaper editors in town. And that was his first. Oh, there was the sheriff first, and then the newspaper editor. And matter of fact, they had to convince Mac to be interviewed so they can get the story and details. But before they could actually come out and tell their story, the military guys came out with the informational officer and gave him a press release, an actual press release about the crash, confirming everything. So that was kind of strange.
Well, then you have the redaction, or they pulled the story back, and there's that famous, that photograph of Jesse Marcel's posing with the kite trash,
the weather balloon,
and the look on that man's face is, you can almost hear him say, "You got to be kidding me." He would have known weather balloon debris from, the man was not a dummy. He would have known that he was looking at an exploded box kite. He wouldn't have bothered to take the material home to show his son, the metal that you could roll up and then it popped right back out. I mean, there's with hieroglyphics. Right, and they say that was children's tape that was used to hold the box kites together. I don't know. You just look at that man's face in that picture, and I can't say on a terrestrial program what it looked like he was thinking, but he obviously felt like he had to have felt like he was ill used at that point. They say, here's a release that we've captured a UFO. Oh, no, it was a weather balloon. I'm not buying it. There are inconsistencies with the Roswell story, but anything that has that many witnesses and that many sources is going to have inconsistencies.
Well, what kills me too is he was a major. And if anyone knows anything, and even back then, the only time you made rank real fast was in the Vietnam War, or the older wars where somebody died, you got promoted. We're talking in the 1940s. The man was a major. It wasn't like he was only in the Air Force for a couple of days.
No,
he was in for several years. If you wanted a valid story that had a little more credibility, put a specialist or a private or someone of that, someone lower ranking that would potentially mistake a weather balloon material, but not a major. Come on now, a major definitely knows the difference between that kind of material.
I'm sure he did, because like I said, he stopped by on his way to surrender the material. He stops by the house and wakes up Jesse Jr.
Right.
It's like, hey, check this out. It's off a UFO. That.
Yeah.
I mean, fathers prank their sons, but that not at 3 or 4 in the morning with tight parts.
And I think about it, as I recall, he didn't wake his son up. His son heard him come into the house. Basically, he was talking to his wife.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to wake his son up for classified information. He was talking to his wife. And real quick, somebody brought up the point too. Special operations or military does not, if they have classified information, they don't talk to civilians. They don't talk to just any Joe Schmo walking down the street. If we have classified information, military will sit, and talk to their buddies that have the same clearance. They don't. So, same thing with family. If I had a classified information, I would, tell my mate, tell my wife. But that's as far as it would go. She ain't gonna talk.
Trip, I've heard the same thing, that it was the radar that somehow jammed the navigational. And keep in mind, those were the 508th bomb group that's actually
right
in Roswell. They're right. There's a bomb group associated with a base near Roswell. And they had the new long-range, high-power radars because, early warning against Russia. The tensions were already there. Kind of left a job undone at the end of World War II and left a very strong adversary with a completely antithetical point of view to our existence intact.
I want to bring this up to you real quick too, Michael, because Don is in the chat room, and I've heard the same thing. That there were 3 craft involved with Roswell. Now, I'm not sure if the one in Kingman, Arizona was a part of that.
That was a later date, I believe.
It was. But I know one, the 2 craft crashed. They hit each other. One went into Roswell. And I believe the other one went into Mexico. It crossed Texas. Does that sound familiar? But there was
an Aztec. There was one called the Aztec incident where the Mexican government troops that went to recover the wreckage all died. Some kind of agent.
There were nine bodies, I think, on that one.
Yeah, when the U.S. showed up to take care, to muscle in to grab it, there was nobody to muscle because they had already succumbed to some kind of biological agent that the ship apparently released upon crash. I've heard from some people that is a deliberate sort of a scorched earth policy thing to keep people from getting a hold of the tech.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you have the Russian Roswell. Happened close to the same time period, if I remember right, too.
Right.
Well, it's almost like E.T. It was here, like it's almost like there's a rule against giving the talking monkeys advanced tech. And this group seems to have figured out a way around it. Let our ships be compromised by the radar. They'll crash. Oops, they got our ships. What are we going to do about it? It's like, to a higher ruling body, it's like, well, no, we didn't give it to them. We didn't know their radars were going to make our plane. I'm just thinking of the bureaucratic mind, even in outer space.
And if you talk tech, I mean, look at the contract that was the contract that was done between I believe it was there's a lot of speculation as to which race it was, whether it was the Greys, whether it was reptilians or the Nordics that made and I can't remember what they call it, the contract that was made between the aliens and
Eisenhower. I always heard that was between the Greys and Eisenhower. Tech for letting them abduct United States citizens
in exchange for fiber optics, cell phones, computer technology.
Some of that doesn't. Some of that doesn't jibe with me, because when you look at how technology already doubles, there's that. I can't think of the name of it. It's something law where technology doubles on a given period. We were already figuring out solid state devices, because all the early transistor was a silicon chip version of a vacuum tube. It was a natural evolution to go from the vacuum tube to the transistor. So I don't think it required a wrecked spaceship. I mean, they should be so far beyond transistors that we opened up their control panel and should just be absolutely,
right.
Like handing a pig a wristwatch. But I think a lot of that came out that, this is all alien tech, and I don't believe it, because I see how, just within my own field in the last 20 years, how the analyzers have gotten more complex, more accurate, just in 20 years. And that there's been, who would have thought back in the album days that you could hold a flash drive that would have, thousands of, recorded songs on it. I mean, we went from albums,
8-track tapes,
8-track tapes, open reel tapes. We went from all this old magnetic media now to digital media in nothing flat. I mean, I can remember when CD players were expensive as hell and CDs were expensive because it was the new tech. And it just, I think the idea that it was all ET technology sort of demeans us as a race, because we are an inventive people. I mean, just look at somebody like Nikola Tesla, or, makes me choke to say it, Edison.
Right.
But I don't know. It seems almost like fiber optics would have been a natural evolution, because we were, working with fibers and optics in that sense. Of waveguides, they were trying to come up with, working with lasers, weaponizing lasers. And I think something like fiber optics would have been a natural evolution, a natural byproduct of the study of lasers.
You're right, Markham, that I think that, we were probably on the cusp of inventing and, expanding that technology ourselves. But, what this Colonel Corso's book was all about, supposedly the idea that he was charged with taking some of those advanced technologies potentially that were captured, recovered from downed craft, and kind of getting them out into the industry so that they could help them develop these things faster, maybe, than just, figuring it out ourselves. So who knows, how much those new technologies helped us get along. Anyway, in any case, it seemed to, like you say, exponentially take off from, after the war, World War II, with our technological advancements. I always point to the fact that, remember in 1957, when the Soviet Union put up Sputnik and just took our military by surprise totally, that they could do this when we had not the capability of doing that in 1957. And then in 1969, the United States lands astronauts on the moon. That you talk about technological development and advancement in a short period of time. That's an example right there.
But that's also a case where a national will was aimed at it. That should give people heart to think that we can go from barely launching, rehabbed V2 rockets captured from Germany, along with that was always the joke. The Russians got into space first because they got the smarter Nazis after the end of the war. But there was a lot to that whole with the space race. It was focused intent. There was a whole nation being guided toward this. So it's not surprising that we went, we made that technological advance. However, when you look at those rockets, there is nothing particularly high-tech about them. They were put together out of just what we had, and the average person's, even if you've got a dumb cell phone like I have, that phone has a better computer and better computing capacity than the Apollo rockets had. They were, the first TRS-80 was better than what they had. It was just a complete, those things were, they weren't impressive by computer standards. They got the job done. And I think the idea was, keep it simple, stupid, so you had something that would work. You don't want to get halfway there and have, your high-tech computer fail. But it seemed like Apollo technology was application of what we had out there already. I mean, even the heat shield was basically varnished, phenolic, like a phenolic material that to burn off and take some of the heat with it. It wasn't like the space shuttle that had the tiles that you could heat them up to 7,200 degrees and still hold them by the edges. So, I guess what I'm saying is I feel that the technology of the Apollo program was commensurate with the technology that was available to the U.S. at that time. It doesn't seem like we made a lot of new stuff in order to do that.
Interesting.
And and Tripp's bringing up the point. Wasn't at least a quarter of the Apollo's weight was just computer alone?
I think a lot of it was. Plus, the copper wires, and there wasn't a lot of printed circuit boards. That what they had was all soldered in. So yeah, I can imagine any of the guidance and electronics that were on board. And I think they were still using. I think possibly there was still some tubes in that technology.
All right, we're real quick. We're coming down to the last 8 minutes of the show. So, Michael, tell us a little bit about UFO I-Team, what you guys do, and how we can find you.
Yeah, thanks, Coop, and thanks, Markham. I've really enjoyed the show tonight. I hope the viewers have, the listeners have as well. The UFO I-Team can be found by just going to Facebook, and UFO I-Team is with a lowercase I, or they can go to www.ufoiteam.com and find our website as well. There's plenty of ways to get a hold of us, and if you've got a sighting report that you want to share, we'd love to hear from you.
And for our listeners, especially for our local listeners, the UFO I-Team is actually one of the teams that FMP actually works with quite closely. Well, at least with Michael. I haven't actually met the rest of your team yet, but we will in August. August 18th is our Skywatch. It's going to be an overnighter Skywatch.
Right.
And of course, like I said, we got Bigfoot. our Bigfoot training. We do a lot of training. This will be actually be our first overnight field exercise that we're going to be doing at Forest Spoon Paranormal, that is. Markham, tell us a little bit about the Fringe.
Oh, it's the best radio network in the world. Y'all, if y'all aren't listening, you ought to be. We're the TKLK, thefringe.fm.
That's
and
right.
If I got that wrong, I'm sure Joe Roop will fire it up in the chat room.
You'll hear about it. So,
yeah, don't miss Rich Giordano's The Paranormal Code, and Joe Roop is doing his show 4 nights a week on the Fringe FM, Lighting the Void.
Excellent. And for any of our new listeners too, and any that listen to the show later on, you can find Forest Spoon Paranormal at Facebook. Join the group. You can like the page, but I really don't check the page a whole lot. Most of the information that we put out comes into the group. We have Paracon September 22nd. Of course, we do S-4 Radio, which is the voice of Forest Moon. And, of course, we're at the Farmers Market in the swap meet here in Concrete. If you're locally listening, you can always stop in. And if you got issues, let us know.
That's the market that's got all the customers.
And look for the green alien, because the green alien is, if you see the green alien, you're at the right market. So what we do is we are an emergency response team. We don't go to hot spots, although we are going to one tomorrow. That's for fun. But you know,
we're actually testing out some new equipment because Mike Morin of the Paranormal Team of Canada, God, I hope I got that right.
You did,
but
okay.
I hooked him up with a analog cassette recorder, and he wants to do a comparison, much like I've done, between the digital recording and how well they capture, and the old school cassette tapes and how well they capture EVPs.
Oh, that'll be fascinating. Yeah, good comparison.
I will say flat out, I think the cassette tapes, because of the inherent hiss and noise in the media, captures more of what can be interpreted as an EVP. Whether they really are or not remains to be studied, but I do believe there's a higher capture rate of some kind of phenomenon with the older magnetic media.
Right. So any kind of evidence or pictures we get, we'll post up in Forest Moon Paranormal, and Michael can share them over to UFO I-Team. Because even though it's a UFO I-Team, you guys are into the paranormal and Bigfoot and all the other aspects of the paranormal that true paranormal teams go for. So with that, thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you for having us.
And I'd like to thank our panel, Eric Markham, our FMP scientist, and Michael Hall, the paranormal lawyer and owner of UFO I-Team. Join us next Saturday at midnight Pacific Standard Time, as we will be having our Forest Moon Paranormal's team show. We talk more about the astral side. We talk more about what we do. Some of the interesting stuff that's happened throughout the month, things of that nature. You can find us on Spreaker.com/shows/small lowercase s-4 and the fringe.fm. And for local listeners, KSVU 90.1 FM. We are on from 10 p.m. to midnight every Saturday on that station. I'd like to thank all of our listeners, because without you, there is no S4. Good night, and remember, keep your eyes to the skies.